Welcome to Motivated Masculine Men. Today we have my favorite, wonderful wife,
Only,
Kristyn on.
only 100 episodes later.
5 years, I think
Yeah.
it is. Almost to the date, bar like a month. I started in January.
Yeah, what year?
Was it January 2020? Just before
Just
COVID.
before COVID.
Right before COVID.
Wow.
Yeah. Started recording
Technically,
podcast.
technically 6 years in.
Yeah, technically 6 years. So there you go. It's yeah. It's only taken a while. Oh, yes. So, obviously we've rebranded. We Talk Everything today. It's to inspire, educate, challenge men to embrace healthy masculinity, deepen their relationships, optimize their health, and step boldly into their purpose. And today, obviously, as always, it's our opinions, our thoughts, what we've learned, what we've heard. But we'll probably talk about all sorts of stuff today, I'd say.
No doubt.
No doubt. Nothing is kept off the table, is it?
Nope.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so just jumping into it, because the audience probably doesn't know. They've heard a lot about you, how amazing you are. But why don't you tell them who you are and a little bit about yourself, whatever you want to share.
Okay. I'm Kristyn. I'm Chris's wife. We've been married coming up 14 years in February. I'm a New Zealander, born and raised. And my day job, what I do in my everyday is I create joy for people through running events. I've recently found what I would classify as my dream job. I'm working for a great company, creating really cool events and getting to travel, which I love to do. I am a connector of human beings, I think, is what I really do. And I think we realized recently I do that because I don't like people to feel alone. I'm a mum to 2 dogs who are laying down here. Obviously, Chris and I have no children, which I'm sure your audience knows. Yeah, that's probably a bit about me. Anything else? You think anything else?
Nah, I think you covered it all up. You went really, as I do all the time, and when we have conversations, just the two of us, we're always going quite deep quite quickly. So you'll probably see that today. So obviously, majority of the audience is probably is majority males.
Okay.
We do have some females in there. The older audience is actually more females.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you have that kind of 25 to 35 year age. And I'd love, wherever you're watching this, drop it in the comments around your age or where you're located, and that would be great to know. See if the stats that are showing on Spotify and everything are actually right. Let's just jump straight into it and talk about masculinity, since that's what we're here to talk about. We talk a lot about it off camera, obviously with me doing this. I'll just ask the question, what does healthy masculinity mean to you? And has it evolved over the years?
Well, I can only speak for myself, because obviously it's all you can ever do. I think there's obviously a revival of masculinity and what that means in today's society currently. It's being talked about a lot. I love my father. I have a great relationship with him now, but I definitely did not grow up with an example of healthy masculinity anywhere in my life, to be honest. I just didn't. So I think you and I talk about regularly, like, it's quite amazing that I married a halfway decent man who definitely, obviously, you've gone through your own growth journey, but I think that's interesting to me. I think it's a man who wants to protect at a core. Like, I think it's, I think people of our generation were probably raised in an era where the mothers of that generation wanted their boys to be not feminine, but like touchy-feely and know how to feel your feelings and be the nice guy and all of that, which I don't disagree with to a point. I think you need to be in touch with your emotions and all of those types of things. But actually, like, first and foremost, you need to know who you are. You need to know what you stand for. And the most masculine men I see are usually the ones who are there to serve, protect, provide, take care of women. So, yeah, I think that's my take on that before we go deeper. Yeah, I'm sure we will.
Yeah, no, definitely. And what about toxic masculinity?
Yeah,
Let's just define the two. Let's define the two. As I say on here a lot, I don't like to use we've kind of had this discussion around using the word toxic masculinity. I think it's just we've had generational differences, different levels of masculinity. I think what my personal thoughts on is that there's a lot of the toxic masculinity is old school masculinity in a way. It's that old school, I'm right, you're wrong, do as I say, not as I do. Like powering through things instead of actually sitting with things and actually looking at things from multiple different perspectives. Obviously, there's the 3 Ps that I talk about: provide, protect, and preside. But yeah, let's hear yours.
I personally don't like that term, only because I just think it's often used in the wrong context, or it's become such a hype phrase, I think, that like people are like, oh, he's just being toxically masculine, and I'm just like, I don't necessarily disagree or agree with it that either way. I just think it's just a term that's kind of thrown around. As you were speaking, I was thinking, well, what does toxic masculinity mean to me? Obviously, at the at the worst level of toxic masculinity, we're talking about men that use their power over women to do horrible things, right? So I'm talking abuse, whatever you want to put that in: sexual, physical, emotional. That is a toxic man. A toxic man, because men are stronger than women. That's just it, right? Men are meant to be the stronger sex. Men are meant to be the hunters. They're the ones that were meant to go out and provide for their family and protect their family. So if you're a good man, you're using your strength to do that for your family, whatever your family looks like for you, right? Whereas I feel like toxic men use their strength and use the fact that they are the stronger sex from a physical perspective and abuse that power. And so that's one part of it to me. And then the other part of it to me would be men that are deeply disconnected from who they are, and actually men who haven't been taught how to communicate. Men that don't, and it's like maybe they were taught all the touchy-feely and be in touch with you, all of this, but they don't actually really deeply feel, well, what does that actually mean? And then when they are having troubles, I mean, I don't expect men to just battle through. That's not what it's about. Like if you're in a partnership, a relationship, a marriage, it's about sharing the struggles with each other and finding, for men, I think, finding your crew, your guys, men aren't meant to do it alone. And I think in today's society, a lot of men are doing it alone. They don't have friends. They don't have a person they can call on. They, have isolated themselves, and they feel like they can't talk to anybody, and talking to people is a sign of weakness. Because again, we've gone through this kind of era of men don't do that, So I think it's a fine balance, but I think at a core, I think it's men using if you believe in God, universe, whatever, as the male sex, you are given the gifts of being stronger than women. That's just a fact. And you're using and abusing it in all the wrong ways. That's what I think a toxic man is.
Over the years of us, I mean, we've been together, I'm going to get
18 years.
18 years, yeah. Married for
14 almost.
14, yeah. There's been a lot of journeys that we've been on. How have you seen the evolution of masculinity in our relationship? Because again, on here, I like to, help. The whole thing of what I love to do here, and the reason I'm doing this podcast, is we've talked about, is really around that two things: helping guys find relationships, intimate relationships, also, guy relationships, and also improve their relationships. And I feel like, we've had our major challenges, as the audience knows as well, but I'm sure we'll talk about more today. but I feel like we've got an extremely strong relationship because of a few things, which I know we'll talk about. But how have you seen the evolution of me and my masculinity, both non-toxic and toxic?
I don't think you've ever been a toxic masculine. You've never used your powers to do harm or to hurt people. I think yours was more, you were highly feminized by an extremely masculine mother who raised you to, all power. Kels, if you're listening, I love you, but like she raised you to be at that far end, right? To actually be quite disconnected from your masculine. She wanted you to be a girl. Let's be realistic, right? She wanted the girl. So, you're not there, you're not feminine at a core. You can bring those tendencies out when you need to, but like, that's not who you are. So I think the reason I probably, if I think about it now, I think the reason we probably ended up together when we were young, you were 20, right? I was 23, was like, you were the nice guy at that point, right? And I think a lot of women...
Hey, I'm still nice.
You're still nice, but what I mean is you're like the modern version of nice, like, which is what mothers of the 80s and 90s, in my opinion, because I can only speak for our generation, right? I can't speak for the generation before, I can't speak for the generation after, but like, those women typically wanted their boys to be the nice boys because they had fathers that were toxic, or fathers that had gone to war, fathers and or brothers that had gone to war, or grandparents, right? So like, again, different generation. I'm not going to talk about what that meant for them, but I feel like a lot of our mothers had fathers that were absent by choice or by circumstance. And I know, for my mother, like, and my grandmother, in abusive environments with toxic men. So therefore, you either repeat the pattern and you raise more toxic children, or you're like, no, I don't want that for my kids. And I think your mum, like, again, I'm not trying to speak for her, but I think whatever her circumstances were, she wanted to raise you as the nice guy. So when we met, you were definitely the nice guy, and I came from an environment where my father was absent by choice, absent in his approach to parenting, absent in his approach to being a part of our family and helping my mother. And so I think I latched onto you because you were communicative and you were the nice guy and you cared about me, and all those things haven't changed, except over time your journey with masculinity has changed because you've realized you were raised, if we're talking about the terminology masculinity, femininity, you were raised very feminine. I'm sure you've talked about this on your podcast before.
We both, sorry to interrupt real quick, but we all have both.
Yes.
We all have masculine, we all have femininity. And certain people, like majority males and females, most of the time, males will be more driven by the masculine and have the feminine there as the other side, and females, biological females, will be driven from femininity and also, which I'd love to get into in a minute, but
So I just think, I mean, again, if you're a person that's growth orientated, you never stop learning, you never stop growing. And so I think just with your journey, again, I'm sure your listeners know your police journey, leaving the police, all of that, like that opened a Pandora's box for you about who you were and your identity. And that era was really what started for you to shift the, like, looking at yourself more broadly, like, who am I? How do I become a better person? How do I grow through adversity? Which led us to personal development situations where you started to learn these things about yourself. And so, we've talked about this recently, like, really, I think a healthy masculine is making a woman feel safe in their presence, always, that they feel safe to be around you from a physical, emotional perspective, that you can keep them safe, whatever that means to you, but you've definitely leaned into who you are at a core, and not just about your masculinity, just broadly who you are, what that means for you, and the way you want to show up in the world, right? And the things you want to help other people with. But again, if we come back to what I said about communication, that is also a big reason why we have the relationship we have, is because we communicate, we talk when it's hard, we talk when it's easy, we talk when it's fun, we talk when it's light. Like, we talk about all sorts of stuff. And I think by learning to communicate effectively, which is a skill all humans should have, not just men, not just women. And I just don't think in this day and age, people, humans, adults, children, like, they don't know how to talk. They don't know how to communicate with one another. Like, how are you meant to do anything if you can't communicate? So
yeah, our communications through devices. Speaking of that, I'm picking mine back up, so I have notes and stuff, and questions and different things in case we need them. But yeah, definitely communication, as we talk about, our main reason I feel as well our relationship has gotten to where it is because of communication. The reason that we've both been able to grow so much, really so quickly. It's been 2018 really when we started this hardcore
into 2018.
2018. I still remember being at it was a Tony Robbins event that we were at. My mom asked us to come with us. She paid for the tickets, and we just had to get there. And we're there, and we're on relationship day, and like he talks about masculinity and femininity. This is where I started to really learn about it and really kind of get it intrigued me. Mainly because of the one time it was like we all have masculinity, and we're driven by, like I said before, we're driven by one or the other. And I remember us sitting in the car. Well, there's two things. One, my mom comes running over and goes, "Sorry, I raised you it's so feminine." And I was like, "Huh, what?" And then at the end of the day, we were in the car. I don't know if you remember this, but we were in the car, and I'm sitting in the back of the car. My mom's driving. You were in the passenger seat. And I go, "I think I'm predominantly feminine." And both of you, like, it was like whiplash while my mom was driving.
I do. I vaguely remember that, not probably as strongly as.
And I just remember sitting with that going, "Oh my God," like, I've always thought that I, felt more feminine because of the way that I was raised, which, again, it's created the relationship that we have, but it's also created a lot of the troubles as well, which we'll go into shortly.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's, what's your thoughts from that, like, in that moment, like thinking back to then when we started to really look at it and think about it around that masculine and femininity for yourself, like, what do you feel kind of shifted around that time?
I think it's just it's like anything. When you learn anything, once you learn it, you can't unlearn it. And I think learning about yourself, because the only person you can ever control in life is yourself. You can't control how other people act. You can't control what other people do. You can't make another human being love you. You can love a person as much as you goddamn want, and that's not going to make somebody love you. Love comes from within. The only place you find love is within yourself, right? So I think it's just the learning journey for both of us about who we were as people, and therefore, like you and I say, we choose to walk. I use the terminology when I'm describing a marriage. A marriage is like train tracks, right? We're one side of the train track each, and we're running our lives along in parallel alongside each other. And we keep choosing every day that that's the path we want to walk. We're our own person on our own journey, growing and doing our own things. We hope we never get to the fork where the train tracks split and then one goes one goes the other. And that happens in relationships, and that's okay. That's fine. But marriage is a choice, and you can only control your side of the train track, right? And by doing that though, and communicating and clearly having those conversations, and only then can you grow as a couple. But I think for us it was learning who we were, learning who we truly were, and then also understanding how that had affected our marriage in the years prior, why we'd had the troubles we'd had, why we'd ended up with like these dynamics that were just, we couldn't understand at the time because we didn't know. We were young, we didn't have the knowledge, and like you and I say all the time, we had no great role models of what a good marriage was. We grew up in terrible marriages. It's not a surprise. If any of the four of our parents were listening, they'd completely agree, right? They would... We
might fight it in the beginning.
We love our parents, and, we love what they did for us, but, like, our parents, for different reasons, my parents should not have stayed together as long as they did, and your parents will both probably say they shouldn't have got married at all. Like, so I think, well, how are we to know the things? You don't know what you don't know until somebody teaches it or shows you it, or you have a problem and then you're like, shit, I've got to fix this. That's the only time that you go looking for answers, right? And on marriage, life, anything in life, right? But it's your responsibility to do that for you. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to fix that for you.
I remember having a conversation, and we both had these kind of conversations, but I had a conversation with somebody not that long ago. I won't say who they are because but I remember going to them going, grass is the greenest where you water it. Yeah. There's that saying, grass is greener on the other side. Well, no, it necessarily isn't. It's greenest where you water it. Yeah. And, and
where you choose to water it.
And where you choose to. Mm-hmm. Go out to your grass and just water half of it and see what happens to the other half. Yeah.
And the words you speak are powerful too.
Oh, so powerful. If
anybody hasn't, go Google the on YouTube, or go look on YouTube the lake. I think it's called the rice experiment. Where a guy puts 3 bowls of rice and talks to the bowls of rice, which sounds crazy and a bit woo-woo, but go watch it, because it really shows you how the power of your words and how words can affect human beings and non-human beings.
Well, you see it in plants as well. Plants, same thing. They say the same thing.
As I'm looking at dead plants in the corner, but yes. It's sad.
It's very lonely down here, though. There's it looks like we'd be down here a lot, but we're actually not. This is my office, and I work from home once a week. So,
Poor plant.
Yeah, poor plant. Yeah, he definitely has seen way better days. It's literally a stick with 1 leaf on it. That was what
a lot better. That plant used to love our old house. It doesn't love this one.
Definitely did. On masculinity and femininity, because I know there's a massive you've gone through your own journey with masculinity and femininity yourself. Tell us a little bit about that. Again,
I think it's the same thing on the flip side. So we talked about what is toxic masculinity and why have men of our generation been raised in a certain way. On the flip side, it's exactly the same for women. So women have been raised typically in the 80s and 90s by really strong women who, our mothers were really the first proper generation that had the opportunity to work. Our grandmothers kind of did, but it wasn't really a full-blown...
They're still fighting for it.
Yeah, and it just, again, our generation, I'm only talking about our generation, but my nana worked. She ended up having to work by circumstance because of what happened to her, but I'll rephrase it. It wasn't an accepted thing for a woman to work when my nana was 18, 19 years old. No. Absolutely not.
Normal.
No. Her job was to marry my grandfather and to have babies, and and over time, as that generation went to war and did those things, that's when women had to work, because there were no men to do the work.
Well, yeah, it's that kind of her parents went through World War I, World War II. She was a kid during that stage.
My nana, yeah.
Your nana. And then it went into kind of that post-war shift a bit, baby boomers, and then we had in the U.S. had the Korea War, had some of that stuff.
Well, the sexual revolution.
Being
access to the pill.
Yeah, you had all that kind of revolution, which your nana went through, and then your mom and my mom were born.
But by the time our mothers got to adulthood, it was acceptable for women to.
It was acceptable. It was still.
It was very common. It was probably way less common than it is now, but it was almost kind of expected. I remember my mum was a stay-at-home mum for a long time, up until I was a teenager. And that was, it was actually probably less common by the time I was that age to have a stay-at-home mum. Oh. It was way more common to have a working mother in the 80s, early 80s.
When you told me that your mom was a stay-at-home mom, I was like, huh?
Yeah. Well, again, we were raised in different countries, so again, New Zealand is always a little further behind. But what I mean is our mothers were the generation where work was normalized. It was normal for women to work, right? So we were raised by, a strong woman, and in my case, a mother that, she didn't work until that's not true. I'll rephrase that. My mother did odd jobs, but broadly, my mother was a stay-at-home mum. And then retrained and ended up going back to work full-time when I was a teen.
She didn't have a career when
she did not have a career when I was a child. And so, we were raised by women, that a lot of these women were raising children alone, and or they were like your mum. Your mum's a little different, but working and raising children and doing all the things, right? So and I remember having this conversation with my mum really early on. I would have been, I don't know, maybe early teens, of you make sure that you go out and you live the life that you want to live. You know, don't settle for anything. Don't let anybody tell you what to do. You know, have your career and don't settle down too young and don't have kids too young and don't do what I did. Right? So then you kind of had this out, like my age, like I'm 41 years old, but like I still see it with a lot of my friends. It's like let's call it the boss babe era of like, I've got to do everything myself. And then you become like this hyper independent female, which was me, right? Like left home at 16 and a half, I think I was 17, right? Really haven't been back since, apart from a very small stint when a very good friend of mine died when I was 21. But it was like, I was kind of raised that like, I don't need no man. Like, look after yourself. And you hear women say this all the time, like, I don't need no man. Well, okay, we'll probably get into that further down the line, right? But I'm like, that's got its issues. And so like, for me, it was just, I became hyper masculine. I ended up trying to do everything myself, being hyper independent. Okay, and it got me really far. It got me a great life. Like, I got to do lots of cool stuff because of that. But I tended to lean towards only male friends. I tended to lean towards working in industries with only men. I mean, I've worked in construction, law, insurance, like all heavily male-dominated industries, right? Although I'm an event manager, which is very feminine, it's actually always been in very masculine environments.
Where you're really mainly the only female a lot of the time.
Apart from within my events team, but broadly in the broader business, you're definitely the minority, and the client base that you're serving is predominantly male. And hilariously, I've kind of found myself back in this place now. Again, we can get to that, but it's, yeah, I was hyper masculine. So here you and I are walking along, living our lives until our like early 30s, let's call it, your late 20s, early 30s, where you're like thinking you're hyper feminine, raised hyper feminine, working in a hyper masculine environment, policing, and here's me, raised really, I'm feminine on the inside, become hyper masculine, working in a highly masculine environment. So it's like we're kind of like we were basically like trying to live our lives as like square pegs in round holes, and then coming home. And you'd come home and really you're masculine and really I'm feminine, but we've been like living these lives so detached from who we are to these patterns. And then it would be like, I think I would probably, and like, don't know if we've ever really considered this or talked about this, but I actually think like I started to exhibit traits of like, if things got hard, I'd actually go to the toxic masculine. I'd actually go to the like, I'm not communicating about anything at all. Yeah. And again, learned behavior. That was my father. That was 100% my dad. So, yeah, it was like, running along, like not feeling anything, just trying to, you know. And again, I had to because it was an instinct for a while there out of survival.
Drop into it sometimes now, and you recognize it, and we communicate about it.
Yeah, for sure. Again, I don't think. We wouldn't have even probably got as far as we had if you weren't acting feminine and I wasn't acting masculine, because we would just never have ever have gotten along at all. It would have just been a complete clusterfuck. Sorry. Like it would have been you're hyper masculine, I'm hyper masculine. We would have lasted 5 minutes. Or vice versa. Like I would have, if I had been hyper feminine and you were hyper feminine, again, it just would never have worked. The one thing, I mean, I'm sure you've talked about this before with other guests, but like you need that polarity. You need, you know, you're basically, if you're both acting in the same way, and I mean, obviously we're here to talk about masculinity, but like there's all sorts of areas that this can apply of like, it's like the analogy of sticking the wrong ends of a battery together and like hoping that you're going to, correct, you're hoping you're going to get power. You're not going to get power. They're not going to fucking work. So yeah, I think that's been interesting. And again, like growth has never ended. Growth never ends. It's not linear. It's not linear and it never ends. So there's still things now that we're learning as we go on about
talking now.
What a correct. Like that's usually how we roll, right? Like
stay up till midnight talking when we have to get up super early.
Yeah. So I just think it's actually sitting here ruminating on it now, I actually don't even think we would have made it as far as we had.
I don't think we would have started.
Well, yeah. Yep, there's
Because in the very beginning, I was very feminine, so I was very like
touchy-feely.
touchy-feely in that. But at the same time, I had the masculine sides where I was like driven. I knew what I wanted. I wanted
You
you.
just felt safe with you.
Yeah, and you obviously felt safe because I was doing a skipper's ticket at the time. So
I think it was just the way you acted towards me made me feel safe.
Yeah.
You actually, you know what it was, most likely, if we, again, like time, rumination, you made me feel seen. Yeah, because I grew up in a household where I don't feel I was seen for who I am. Not seen as in like, nobody watches me. I don't mean that type of scene. I mean seen as to who I was as a child, as to my interests and my loves and my things I liked to do. My mum did, and but the person I really wanted to see that was my father.
Whose love you wanted the most?
He was the parent whose love I wanted the most, because I always had my mum's love. And so I think, if I think about it now, I think it was that you made me feel seen. At the time, it felt weird. I told one of my friends I thought Chris was a stalker because he just wouldn't leave me alone, and he was super persistent. But actually, if we flip that on its head, I actually think it's because you made me feel seen. You messaged me and you were like, "Go on a date with me," and whatever. I can't even remember what you texted me. God, imagine if we could find the text messages.
Imagine we had iPhones back then. You saved all the messages.
Like I do recall it was like a daily message of.
I think it hits those again. We talk about the 3 Ps. Provide, protect, and preside. It was also that it showed that drive and that willingness to go for things, to fight for things, which is a trait that tell me if I'm wrong, but you still, even to this day,
100%. You're very driven.
And then also that protect side of things, and that making you feel seen and presiding over that. Cool. This is what I want. This is what I'm gonna get. And kind of hit all those kinds of things. But then also, as you said, it made you feel seen, made you feel loved, made you feel safe. I'm also 6'6", so it kind of helps. But from a physical aspect. But on that thing, I've actually said it on here before in interviews, and that when I was policing, I was grown up very feminine. That very feminine kind of attributes and that, which have got me so much. But then that masculine, I didn't know how to tap into that, because my dad really would kind of be a pushover in some ways. He was my best friend, still kind of is, really wasn't that dad role model. And then I'd get jealous when I would find other males of his age and latch onto them as a role model because they were more masculine.
I think you and I actually, of course, this is why we're together. We've talked about this. Like, we saw in each other similarities. Hence why we, we found it.
At the time, like.
What I was about to say was we actually had very similar upbringings from the perspective of, except your mum was like the working mum. She was the going out, the go-getter, the, whatever, I'm sure again you've talked about her. My mum was not. She was the opposite. But for both of us, our mums were the more masculine person in the relationship.
They were the anchor within the household.
Correct. They were the ones that, for your mum, it was the financial security, it was all of those things, etc. My mum, it was the emotional, maternal. My mum's so maternal, like crazy maternal. And our fathers, your dad was like the pushover, the fun guy. He was like, wanted to be everybody's best mate. He's still like that. He wants to be everybody's best mate. Loved him to death. But then like my dad was just like, he was just weak. Let's put it that way. Like, again, loved my dad, no shade. Him and I have done a lot of work on our relationship, but my dad just was completely absent, both physically and emotionally and mentally, to be perfectly honest. My dad, him and I have talked about it. He's like, he didn't even know how to be a dad. He had no great role models. Where are you going to learn it from? Grew up in a really hard household with really hard parents and very little love and very little emotion. And so, our mothers were, although very different.
They really pulled both roles.
Yeah. Correct. Very different women, our mums, but like from the perspective of what they did for our families, they were all of it. They did it all. Yeah. Like I say to people, I was raised
a little bit different. My grandma.
Yeah, you've got a slightly different story, but what I mean is, like, for me, I'm like, if you asked who raised me, and you'd say the same thing, it's your grandma, not your mother, but like, for me, I'm like, my mum raised me. Like, my dad didn't raise me. My dad had really no hand in raising me whatsoever, other than being the reprimander and coming in with the toxic masculinity of not knowing how to communicate well, shutting everything down, and then using physicality, using his power, using his strength, using his, size to, not to my mum, never to my mum, but to command his children.
To command situation.
So I was either scared of my dad, or I didn't want to. I just didn't know him. I didn't know the man. Now it's a completely different situation.
But he's just a big teddy bear.
But he probably always was. But he just didn't know. Again, he'd been raised in a way. He'd been taught certain things.
He didn't know.
And that was, again, like, yeah, that's life, right? It's a continual learning journey.
No, and as I was saying, when I joined law enforcement, I went to this hyper masculine. In some ways, part of it, can be toxic masculinity as well, because of trauma and all of that brings out a nasty side of people because of what you see and deal with, and you start to believe that's all the world is. And so in a way you lose hope, which then brings out that toxic masculinity. But I would go to work and be able to sit in that masculinity and not have to sit in that femininity or sit on that feminine side. And then I'd come home and you'd be the hyper masculine person, and we would just clash heads. And then I was going through all my stuff, so I just would set all that stuff off, and then it kept spiraling.
I think it really hit. I think it got really bad before you really had your mental health breakdown. I think that was probably the worst era, because you were just in a phase of, you weren't in a great place, and on top of that you're trying to figure yourself out, and you just you had a recipe for disaster, basically, which is what it was.
That's what happened. And we managed to make it through it, which I know we'll talk about either today or some other time in the future. What do you think's caused a lot of this? I know this is where your idea, and we've had this conversation with friends, that they didn't expect you to say it the way that you did. What do you believe is some of the causes that have created this hyper masculine, feminine, I don't even know how to really phrase it, this hyper masculine female culture, or feminine kind of base, I guess you could call it. I don't know. I'm botching this here.
As in, why have you had the breakdown of like masculinity and femininity in society? Why have you had like a rise of divorce rates are worse than they've ever been? Single women can't find husbands, really successful women.
So many people.
There's a lot of research that, that's going on about that. I think what will probably shock and surprise most people when I say this that know me, is because obviously I have always been the breadwinner in our relationship, and
shit tons more than I do,
and have always been hyper independent, and it's still, to a point. I'm very proud of my career. I love what I do for a living. I'm never, gonna give that up. And we chose not to have children, so that's afforded us a different type of life than a lot of people. But I think the pill is the worst thing that ever happened to women, and I think it's because and again, people probably be shocked to hear me say that, because I don't have children and I've used contraception for many years to make sure that I didn't get pregnant, right? But when that revolution happened, it completely changed the dynamics of a household. All of a sudden, women could delay having children. They could make different choices. They could have sexual freedoms, all of those things. And again, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying women shouldn't have those things. I'm not saying women shouldn't be able to work and have all the things that women have got to. I absolutely believe in equal rights for women. What that has done to the family unit, though, and what that has done to relationships, I think that's where that's my personal opinion. I think that's where it started, because if you look around that era, again, we kind of were talking about it before, right? All of a sudden it was like, now it's unheard of. If you're a household with children and you live in a major city in any part of the world, you can't not have both parents working. You literally could not afford to survive, right? And you and I talk about this. We don't have children. We're like, how the hell are some of our friends doing this? Like, how are they raising 2, 3 kids? And that's because all of my female friends work. I do not have, I'm just like trying to think, making sure, apart from there's one family we know, our neighbours, where she doesn't work.
It works some though.
But she does, but broad.
Kids have gotten older since that.
But correct, right? And so I could go on a ranting tangent about this because there's just so many facets to this that I think could be discussed, but I'm trying to keep it within the confines of the masculinity, femininity kind of conversation because that's what we're here to talk about. But I think as soon as women had that, it meant women had more choices. And again, I'm not saying women shouldn't have choices. I want to make that really clear. But I think that is what you're messing with your hormones. You're messing with what makes you. I mean, women have enough issues with hormones as it is, right? So then all of a sudden you're now messing with, and for me personally, I personally have had an experience with this, right? Where, like, I have no shade sharing this. Like, my body was messed up when I came off the pill because I took it for so long. And, like, women are just taught, like, girls, we women are not taught about actually how fucking hard it actually is to get pregnant. And we spend all these years trying not to get pregnant. And now we've got the opposite problem where women can't get pregnant. How many of our friends have had to go through IVF fertility journeys because, and I'm not saying the pills are the sole cause of it, but like because women delay that for so long so they can have careers, so that they can do all of these things, right? So that's I'll stop there because again I could talk about this forever, but I think that's probably the thing that's most shocking that most people who know me, who think they know me, if I came out and had that conversation, they'd probably be really surprised to hear me say that, because I think it's done a lot to society that's then had this flow-on effect to men and women, right? Now you've got women earning more than they ever have before. They're out-earning men. They're out-educating men. They're going to university at way higher rates than most men. And, here's the thing, right? If you're a woman and you want a man to look after you and to protect you and provide for you and procreate with you, like those are
when you want to have kids and that.
So those are these three things, but yet you're more educated, you're more wealthy. I mean this politely. What's a guy going to provide you? What's a man going to provide you?
Again, there's that don't need no stinking man.
Right? And then again, we are living in an era where women are having children with men.
And they're able to without even having sex.
They don't need to. They could literally go and, like, I know a friend of a friend who's had a child absolutely without a man. She got she hadn't found the right man, and so she went and did it on her own. She earns a shitload of money. Like, I mean, this society's kind of fucked if women think they don't need.
It gets even more fucked because then you jump into that. We even talked about it, or you mentioned it around the fact of like, really not being raised with your dad. And like your dad was there, but he wasn't there, and so there's this thing of emotionally, mentally not there. And for young men especially, seeing the research coming out that the cause of most criminals that become big time criminals have absent fathers, and that's either physically, emotionally, mentally. There might be fathers that are there, but they're not actually there. They're off doing whatever, or they're having to work so much that they're never actually there. And so you're seeing a massive thing on this, and then you have the fact of, well, now you have single mothers that are having kids without a father. So the fact of you can't even tell the person who their father actually is. And I could only imagine having that conversation with my mom. It's that from a mental health perspective is massive. You then have the fact of, fathers divorce rates are through the roof. They're over 50%. I think it's like 53 or something percent.
I think it's higher,
or even higher than that, depending on the country you're in. We wonder why the birth rates are dropping. We wonder why, mental health is on the rise. You wonder why, like, crime's on the rise. You look at the U.S. with all sorts of crime. Just take the mass shootings. We won't dive into it.
Stuff.
But you see all this different stuff that,
I think it's, I think the most important. And it's funny, again, most people will probably be surprised to hear me say this because we don't have children.
A bunch of the people are going to watch this.
Of course they are, but I think I think one of the hardest and most important jobs in the world is raising the next generation. It's more important. All of my friends that have children, they are doing way more important work than me, in the respect that they are raising kids. And to raise, and you and I talk about this, to raise, we believe, and again, we're saying this with no experience of raising children, but we have got, all of our friends have children at varying degrees. We've got friends that have got adult children, right down to friends who are just having children, right? So we have had friends who had the kids when we were in our 20s, who they've got now 18, 19, 20-year-old children, and we've got friends who are literally got babies. So we've seen our friends have kids over the last 20 years, and we've watched, and we've been involved, and we've been part of a lot of this. And I mean, I think the single most important thing that parents can do for their kids is love each other and stay together. Stay together because they love each other. Not stay together like our parents did because they thought that was the right thing to do. Stay together and have a solid family unit with a mum and dad that can communicate and love each other and take care of each other. And you and I talk about it. Our most well-rounded friends are the ones whose parents are still together, who by all accounts love each other. They're not just staying together for the sake of it because that's easier than leaving each other. Like, they've got good, solid relationships. And most of our friends have come from divorce. We're all a little bit fucked up in some way. Like a lot more than the friends whose parents have stayed together. So I think we've got evidence to support our thought process. But yeah, that's definitely, I think, by somebody else having to raise your children. Again, I want to reiterate, I have no idea. Women should be able to do what they want, how they want, when they want. I'm not saying women should have their, I don't want to take us back to the 50s. That's not at all what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that with every action is with every reaction is an equal and opposite. With every action is an equal and opposite reaction. That is physics, that is science, that is the law. So if you basically put something in place to change something that is fundamental, you're going to have an equal reaction in the opposite direction. And I just think, again, I could go on a ranting tangent here too, because I just think society, we do one thing for that action, and we quite rarely do we think about the equal and opposite reaction that we're going to cause. And I think that's why we're at where we're at as society in 2025, nearly 2026. Is we've done things, we've made choices, and we've done all these things, but with that comes consequence.
Yeah,
that's it.
Wants to come up with something.
Come up here.
Move your sister.
Move your sister out of the way.
On that, because we're just talking about relationships, I know we are not in this era. But let's talk about the relationships, because we do have a few friends and people that we know that are going through some stuff, going through tough times. From the female's point of view, from the feminine side, or even just from your observation and opinion, what do you believe holds a relationship together for, let's say, as long as ours is?
Radical, honest communication.
What do you mean by that?
So there's that. I've got a couple. There's that, which we can circle back to. And friendship first. You have to be best friends. I think a lot of, again, movies have told us, you're meant to feel all these butterflies and all these things, and you've got to be highly sexually attracted to a person. And I'm not saying those things aren't important, but there's way too much emphasis put on that, and way not enough emphasis put on do I actually like this person? Do my values align with this person? Is this person that I could picture myself spending the rest of my life with? Guess what? You're going to get fucking old, and you're not going to look like you looked when you were 25. You're going to go through a lot of hard shit. If you're together, if you're monogamous, that's the way you practice marriage, and you want to have a 60-year marriage, you're going to see the best and the worst of that person. The absolute best and the absolute worst. And you don't deserve to be in a marriage if you're not willing to be there for the absolute worst as well as the absolute best, right? And you and I talk about this. It's we joke, it's the top of the roller coaster, There's days where we're wow, life is great. Things are going swimmingly.
When's it going to
and like there's no drama and like all this, and then we're like, something's gonna happen. Like it's just we're just like
recently.
coming up the top of the roller coaster, and guess what? Like we gotta ride the other side, but like we're riding the roller coaster together. Like we hit the bottom, and it's like shit, this sucks. But guess what? We know the roller coaster is gonna go up again, right? And I think too many people.
Because we're best friends to start with.
Correct. So we're best friends and we care about each other as people, right? And so like the problem is too many people get to that bottom, that dip in the roller coaster, and they think that's it. That's their marriage, that's their relationship, and that they're never gonna come out the other side of it. Right? But you've got to like the person. You've actually got to want to be friends. You got that's what I think. And I think too much emphasis is put on lust, not love. When in the early stages,
The honeymoon stage.
yeah, correct. And that stage phase, that phase goes. It's gonna go. Like that's it, right? So we talk about it. If we come back to the radical honest communication, to me, that's telling the other person stuff, even if you think it's gonna hurt them. You have to be honest. If you're not honest, what's the fucking point? And also.
And as long as you're coming from a place of love.
From kindness, I'm not saying be an asshole. I'm saying like don't be a dick, as you would say, right?
I love that one. Thanks, Ashley.
But I'm like, you can't have. I think you and I, from the very beginning, that was one of our kind of core principles of our relationship, right? Day one, it was like, don't lie. Like, just be a good human. Treat the person how you want to be treated. Don't lie. If something's really bad, come and say something to the person before. Don't disrespect the other person. As soon as respect is gone in a relationship, you're totally fucked. That's my personal opinion. And it's very, very, very hard to come back from respect. Respect and trust, those two things. If you do something to really break the other person's trust, like that is an extremely hard place to come back from. Because again, I think it comes back you asked me from the feminine perspective, I think that comes back to feeling safe. How can you as a woman feel safe with your partner, husband, whatever it is, if that person's gone and done something to disrespect you? That's a really, really hard place to come back from.
On that, because the audience knows my story, knows my side of our journey.
Yeah.
And, with me almost cheating on you and then coming to you and
everybody told you not to.
And everybody told me not to. They're like, oh, no, everybody told me not to, that I mentioned that it had. And this was the only reason I had these conversations with people was because Kristyn was away for work. I think she was overseas. She was somewhere. But she was out of town. And so it wasn't a thing of I could say it the next day. And so I'd have these conversations with people, even close friends of yours.
Yeah.
And you just talked about, the respect side and not breaking that respect. It brought up is that why you forgave the almost cheating on you side?
Well, you respected me. You didn't do it. And you came and had a conversation with me and you told me, this is the way I'm feeling and I don't want to do that to you. And that was, you kept a promise that you'd made to me many, many years before, right? Of like, I'm not disrespecting you. I'm not going to sleep with some other person. Things are bad. They're really bad. Like, I want to sleep with somebody else. That's a pretty bad place to be when you're married. That's pretty, And it was like, it's funny. In all of that stuff that we went through, that features very little for me. You bring it up quite regularly when you tell the story and all of that.
That was
your turning point. That was your turning point, right? But for me, I'm like, that doesn't really even feature in my process of us going through what we went through. I'm like, yeah, I know it was the catalyst for you to come and have a conversation with me, but I'm like, there's nothing attached to that part of the story for me because you just did what you said you were going to do. You respected me. It was hard to hear. I didn't like it. And then that comes back to the radical, honest response, like communication, right? It's like you have to be less worried about hurting the other person and more worried about lying to them. And this is what I tell my friends. I've told some of my friends this recently. I'm like, if you're feeling a certain way, and I would apply this to all relationships, friendships, just intimate, any relationship you have, anything. I'm like, if you are sitting there and you're feeling something, and again, your feelings are your feelings, but if somebody's done something to you or has treated you in a way that you really struggle with, or you're uncomfortable about something, if you don't tell them, you're actually lying by omission. You're lying by not telling them. And then you know what starts to happen? People start to make up their own story in their own head that can quite often be a hell of a lot worse than the truth, right? I don't know, don't use us, but any other story where you're like, you've started thinking that somebody's thinking something, and the story you've made up in your head about that thing is like 100 times worse than the thing that's actually happened, right?
And then you find out actually what happened, you're like, oh wow, I thought it was so much
But it was so much worse, right? So like we spend so much of our lives worrying about stuff. There's enough shit in life, right? Like why would you... that period in our marriage, I always say to people, this is the person I'm meant to love and respect and care about the most. Like, why would you lie by omission, not tell them? Like they're meant to be your best friend. You're meant to tell them everything. And that's what you and I do, right? There's nothing I wouldn't tell you. There's nothing I wouldn't share with you. There's nothing I wouldn't, because that's the relationship we've built, and also to not run away from hard shit. Comes back to what you said earlier. The grass is greenest where you water it. The grass is greenest where you put the effort in. And yep, I guarantee you, there's another wild fact that you might not expect about me, given that Chris and I have been married 14 years, together for 18. I love him to the end of the earth. I don't believe Chris is the only person that I could have married or fallen in love with, right? I've chosen this human being, right? So on the flip side, I also believe, I could leave you tomorrow and I could go probably find somebody else to live my life with or whatever. But the same shit's going to happen. The same hard stuff's going to happen. Yep. Somebody's going to lose a job. Somebody's going to lose a parent. Somebody's going to end up with PTSD from policing. Somebody's going to lose their career during a COVID pandemic. Like, the same shit's going to happen. Like, do you want to do it with this person? Do you love them? Do you respect them? You and I talk about this all the time. I'm like, Chris and I joke, I'm like, we're going to die together, like the Notebook. Because I'm like, I can't actually picture a life where you're not in it. And I know one day for one of us, it's going to happen, right? Which, makes me emotional. But I'm like, you're my best friend. When good shit happens, I want to tell you. When bad shit happens, I want to tell you. When something's exciting's happening, the first person I want to call is you. I don't want to ring anybody else.
I call her randomly sometimes. I'm like, this just happened. She's like,
okay, great.
The middle's on it. I was like, okay, I just want to tell you. Bye.
Yeah, but that's, that takes effort.
It does. It takes lots of
effort. And so we can sit here and have this lovely chat and people might look at us and be like, oh, lucky you. But actually, anything worth having in life takes work. Well, and takes work.
Yeah. I fight for Kristyn every single day. And when I say that, I don't mean pushy. I literally fight for being with her. I also do think of that time where I almost cheated on her and I go, she again chose me. So every day I think, okay, cool. I've got to, this might be the wrong phrase, but I need to make it up to her in a way. It's not making it up to you in I want to keep leveling myself up for her. And that's what I do every single day. And that's how we've been together 18 years through some of the hardest shit that the counselor said 85% of people won't make it through.
I also think there's this fallacy that relationships are a 50-50 game. And they're not. So people are like, huh? What are they? Well, relationships are a 100-100 game.
Yeah.
As in, I love Chris. I've been with him 18 years, but God, he has some habits that drive me absolutely mad. Like any marriage. He has this annoying habit of leaving the toothpaste on the countertop. He has another annoying habit of just splashing water everywhere in the kitchen and never cleaning it up. And I've always joked that he's Shamu, the fucking whale.
I'm better with that.
We make light of it, right? Because I'm like, oh, Shamu's been in the kitchen. There's water everywhere. What I mean by that is, instead of getting annoyed when Chris doesn't do the things I think he should be doing, all I do is try and turn my mindset to, I want to make Chris's life as easy as possible because I love him.
Same thing back.
So it's like, okay, instead of it being I'm fucked off because he hasn't done the washing this week or whatever it is, I'm like, I'm helping him. I'm contributing to our marriage and I'm giving it 100 every day. Some days I'm not going to be 100. Some days I'm going to have a bad day, and I might be at 20 because I've, worked a massive event and I've just come home and I need to put myself in a dark room for 2 days and sleep because I'm exhausted. But broadly, marriage is about trying to do everything that you can for the other person. And I think that gets lost, or it never gets found. It never starts. I think most people go into relationships with this expectation of the other person. And I just think you're always going to be bitterly disappointed.
Well, again, going back to that whole thing of you said, like you said, people have this fallacy that the lust stage will stay forever. And so you lose that because in that lust stage, you will do anything and everything.
You also forgive the digressions. You also be like,
just forgive it.
The bathroom floor.
Forgive that she left the plates on the counter from lunchtime or left them on her desk, but again, it comes down to that thing of, I think how I look at it when there's things that you do that I'm like, and I get annoyed with it, is for a split second I'll get annoyed with it and I'll be like, this isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, but I was also going to say it's also, and this is like now getting into kind of neuroscience and the way the brain works. I'm like, it's also your feeling.
Yeah.
You're choosing to feel annoyed.
Yeah.
Why are you even choosing to feel annoyed about it?
You also a lot of times see what in somebody else what you don't like in yourself.
Okay. So, yeah, but I think those are probably my, I mean, there's so many things, but those are like my main ones. Is like
first things to focus on.
I mean, Chris's best man at our wedding gave this beautiful speech, and I refer to it often, and I often rewrite it into other people's cards when our friends get married, right? Like, marriage is an empty box. You only take out what you put in. You can only take what you give. If you're not giving and you're not trying to like do better and be better for the other person, like how the hell are you ever expecting to be able to take anything out of it? Because you can't take if you don't give, right? That's a two-way street. So
he also did say many times she's right.
Yeah, of course. But no, but the box analogy is a great one, because it's like, yeah, you think about how you act around other people and other, like, you're not going to go to work and expect your workmates to do everything for you. You have to do your share. You have to contribute to the team. You have to put the effort in. Like, imagine if you just rocked up to work and just sat there and just expected your workmates to do everything. And I'm talking broadly to the men out there. Like, you go home and it's like, well, she's got it. She can do it. She can, like, you wouldn't have a job. Either you'd be fired, or your workmates would hate you and they would never talk to you. But yet somehow we kind of get into this weird habit in our relationships that we do things to the person we're meant to love the most that we would never ever do to other people. And I think the best and the worst of your intimate relationship. You really know everything about them at an intimate level that most people or probably nobody's ever going to know. There's things about you that nobody's ever going to know, and vice versa, right? So you can bring out the best or you can bring out the worst. And that tends to be what happens, right? You can set each other's triggers off real easy. Like, if you really wanted to upset me, you know how to do it, and vice versa. But do you do that? No, because you love and care and respect for me. Why would we treat each other like that? We're meant to be a team in this thing called life, this wild thing called life, right? Like, why would we do anything but want to fight it together? Like, I personally can't wrap my head around, you chose a person. I guess this is what, the crux of the conversation, right? Like, how does it get to a point where it's so broken that people feel they can't fix it?
I guess on that, when is the right time? I mean, we haven't had to experience it, but we've talked to enough people and, seen enough things and coached in a way, enough friends and couples in that. When is the right time to pull the ripcord?
When your values aren't aligned anymore.
Explain that for those that...
So there's a lot of research that says, like, as a couple, or even in friendships too, the reason you become friends or you end up in a relationship with somebody is because you have an alignment of values. It's usually got to be at least one of the top two things that you as a person find to be, of value, and that can change. It's not static. it can be somebody can be driven by one value their entire life, and that may never ever shift. Other people, it can shift through circumstance, age, learning, growth,
experiences,
all sorts of stuff, right? But like, again, if you start to realize that your values are wildly disaligned, like something that's quite important to you, I think that's a really hard thing to come back from. And again, if me personally, if the respect is not there, if I was telling you something that was really hurting me, harming me, making me really like not okay, and you just never did anything about it, like, I like to think I'm a reasonably forgiving person. Not always, not in all circumstances, but in most, right? Like, but if you just keep basically refusing to do anything about that thing or ignoring the problem, how the hell, again, this comes back to what I said earlier. It's like there's two people in a relationship. It takes two people. You can't make a person love you. You can't make a person treat you the way that you feel you should be treated. But what you do have a choice in is whether you stay or whether you go. And that's friendships too. I've over the years I've cut off many friends because I haven't been, the values have become misaligned, or somebody's done something to really hurt me and hasn't tried to even care that they've done something that's harmed me. I'm not saying mistakes don't happen. I'm not saying people don't do things that they don't really like. But it's taking ownership from those mistakes and being like, shit, I'm genuinely really sorry. How can I repair this? How can I fix this? How can I make this better? But I've had circumstances in my life where that's not happened. So I'm like, bye.
Yeah.
See you later. There's my door. Like, because again, through my growth journey and through my circumstances, I now hold really strong boundaries for how people treat me. Yeah.
Very true.
And, I love that saying. I think it was like on a Teddy Swims podcast. I think it was Teddy Swims that I heard, but I'm sure it's not his quote. It's absolutely not his quote. He was re-quoting it. But it was basically, and I'll repeat it because you've really got to hear it a couple of times. The way people treat you says everything about them. The way you let people treat you says everything about you. So basically that means you can't control how other people treat you. But if you let them keep doing it to you, that's on you. That then is your issue, right? So you can't control the world, but what you can control is yourself and your environment and the people you let into it and the energy that you allow into your life and space. And so the older I get, the more firm I get on that. The firmer I get on that. If I don't feel better after being around you, you're not, like, bye. You won't see me again. You're like, I'll be polite and I'll be, but I'm not going to go out of my way to spend time with you, to find you, and I'm sure there might be people that have known me in the past and they'll listen to this and they'll hear that and they'll be like, oh shit. Like, because they'll realize that maybe the reason I haven't stayed in contact or haven't kept connected, I guarantee will be because of that, because of a lack of respect, or because our values, our energy, it's just, I protect that now. I protect it fiercely.
You have to, especially as you get older. Like we both do it all the time. We protect it all the time. And there's friends of mine that I get along great with that Kristyn
I don't.
She doesn't. And so I'll hang out with them on my own and it's totally okay because I connect with them still and Kristyn doesn't.
And vice versa.
Vice versa, yeah. So, there's friends of Kristyn's where I'm around them and I'm just like, I want to rip my hair out. Not many, because we have, again, Kristyn and I have such tight values. Yeah. Most of our values are all in the top 5. Yeah. And so any friends that we do have are very much and again, those friends of hers that I do, there's times where I'm like, cool, not you, go do you. And then there's times where, because they do have values that line up, I'm like, cool, yeah, no, let's like go hang out with them and do things. So it's, I'm curious, and I know we're a bit of time in, which is totally fine because as I said earlier on, Kristyn and I, we literally did it last night. We sat down, we went to go to sleep, and next minute we were talking for like 2 hours about deep and meaningful things as we're going to bed, which is actually great. It's except for when I'm extremely tired or when you're extremely tired, but that's when you get the most raws in that exhaustion stage. I'm curious, and I know listeners are probably curious to hear your perspective and your side of my mental wellness journey, and that journey from your perspective, not just about me, but about us, about you, during that time of what I call hell, but growth, I'll call it. Yeah.
Number one, how long have we got? And number two, what exactly do you want me to talk about specifically? Because there's lots of things here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess is that if you were going to talk about that time period with somebody, I mean, on a podcast like we are, somebody asks you, how that time was for you and what would you say about it? I guess that I know we can go, we could talk about it. That could be a whole episode on its own, but I do know that, I've talked about it a lot on this podcast, on the previously branded version of this, on other podcasts, and that I've told my side of the story. I guess I want to hear your side of the story.
Okay. To be honest, it's a while ago now, right? Like we're coming up 8 years really from when it really kicked off.
It's 15.
Yeah, so 8 years since it really kicked off.
What's it, 15, 10 years almost?
I think, I don't even really know where to start, to be honest. I think, trying to just think about where I start here. I think number one, I always wanted to help you. And like I've told many people over the years when this does get brought up, but I've never been on a podcast. This is the first time I'm really
popping that cherry.
talking about it where it might be public, right? Like, and it's not, and nothing I say on here isn't anything I'd say to somebody if they were standing right in front of me. Is who am I to decide whether you are happy or not? And what I mean by that is, during that time, so the first thing I probably felt was lonely, alone. It was a very lonely time for me. I probably can't even count on one hand. So I couldn't even fill one hand with the number of people that, to be fair, gave a fuck about me at that point, right? Because all eyes were on you, naturally, right? You were the one falling apart. You were the one, let's call it not yourself. You were the one, up Struggle Street. And so, I mean, I'm sure there'll be listeners out there who can identify with this in the respect that when somebody's going through something like that, and it doesn't even have to be a mental health breakdown like yours, it could be, like the death of a parent or the loss of a job or a child that's sick or like all sorts. There's usually one party that everybody's checking in on. I'm always the person that's checking in on the other party because there's always at least 2 people involved in any scenario, right? So I think the number one thing that comes to mind for me is, I was very lonely. I had a lot of people, including some members of my own family, who told me, what the hell was I doing? I shouldn't be supporting you. I should be leaving you. We've always been very open about what was going on. More open as the years have gone on, but like we weren't trying to hide it even when it was happening, right? Like I wasn't going and telling the world with a loudspeaker, but like obviously people at work started to find out that this was happening because naturally I wasn't my best self there for a while. I was doing my absolute best that I possibly could, but on the flip side I was trying to hold our life together back home while you did your trip and all of that, right? So I think I had a lot of conversations with people of like, oh, what's going on? Oh, my husband's just like taken off, might not come back, says he wants a divorce. He's gone to do this like unknown period of time on a motorbike in the US by himself and it's kind of like left me here. And like most people's reaction was, what are you doing? I could never do that. Why are you supporting him? Why are you? And I'm like, I just remember thinking that was a very strange question, but I got it a lot. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, he's my husband, like, and he's my best friend. I'm like, don't you want the people you love and care about to be the happiest, healthiest versions of themselves? Whether he wants that with me, whether he comes back and he tells me he wants a divorce, like, actually, I just want him to be himself. Like, my husband's broken. He's like, literally, like, broken, like, mentally broken. And unless you've had somebody go through a really bad mental health journey, I don't think you can ever understand what it's like to watch the person you love. It doesn't even have to be your partner. It could be your child. It could be a parent. It could be a best friend. Like, when they are mentally unwell to the point of near suicide, like, all you want for that person, if you give a shit, is that they're better. And that was literally all I could think. Like, yes, there was periods where I was mad and I was angry and I was disappointed, but once we got past that, it was like, fuck, I just want him to get better. I want my husband to come home and I want him to be Chris. Not this, like, person that you'd become. You'd become this shell of yourself.
What did you see? What did you see in that person prior to me leaving?
I saw somebody that was scared. I saw somebody that was lost. I saw somebody that had stopped communicating with me, and therefore I didn't know the truth. I didn't know what was going on. You know, like, we got to that first counselling session. You and I have talked about this a lot, right? We got to that first counselling session and I'm like, I don't know half the shit that you came out with in that session. Like, I'm not sleeping. I'm not eating. I think I've got dementia because I can't remember anything. Like, all of these things you started telling the counsellor that I was like, what? Like, we've always had this relationship of communication and being really open with each other. And then I was like, oh my God, he's scared. And he's so scared, he's even so scared to tell me. So, you know, obviously we had the counselling that got you on the journey to realise you needed to take your trip and do all the things that you did. But I'm just like, man, I want him to come back a whole, when I say a whole person, like the image that's coming to my mind is that, like, beautiful Japanese art called, I'm going to butcher this, Kingzui or whatever, where they basically take broken plates and they mend it with gold. That's the, like, image that pops into my mind of where you were at that time. It was like Christopher was broken into pieces. And I was like, God, I hope he comes back as this beautiful bowl that's been sewn back together by gold, because he's had these experiences. Like, he's stronger because of the experience. Like, it's like, I don't wish it upon anybody. I don't wish it upon anybody's marriage. But I think you and I can sit here and say, you are stronger for having gone through that. We are stronger for having gone through that. Like the counsellor said, like, right, we've built this level of trust and respect and resilience in our marriage and ourselves because we've been through something really, really hard. Like, and I think you and I had that chat at the time, and we'd bring it up often, right? Like, only through adversity can you realize how strong you are. Only when you're put to a test do you realize, like, what you're made of, you know? And I don't know, I just think everybody thought I was mad. Just like everybody thought you were mad for different reasons, because you kind of were, but mad.
I was definitely mad. I was joking mad.
People thought I was crazy for being the supportive partner, and I just find that deeply sad that we live in a society today where...
Do you think it's gotten better in the last 10 years? Or?
No, it's gotten way worse. Way, way worse. And I think the thing that really threw me, the one conversation that threw me the most of all the people that could not understand my position was your mother. And that, like, really, you know, Chris's mum, probably 2 years after this happened, and I don't even know if she'll remember this conversation. She may not, but I remember sitting with her in a house Chris and I used to live in, and we were talking about a whole bunch of other stuff, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she looked at me and said, how did you do it? And I said, how did I do what? She said, how did you support Chris? And I said, because despite whatever you may think, I love your son unconditionally. Like, unconditionally. Like, yes, we were talking before about breaking respect and trust, but, like, you and I joke, like, you murder somebody, I'll be like, okay, we're burying the body, you know, like so,
I already have that planned out.
Yeah, so, like, there's very little at this point I think you could do, unless it was deeply disrespectful to me. But there's not much you could do as a person that you're my best friend, right? So I remember saying to your mum, I love Chris unconditionally, to which she looked at me and said, I don't think I could have done that. And I just was like, what? Like, and the counsellor said it to us. 85% of people would not make it through what we went through. 85% of people would have walked away. As in the me in that relationship, the person being put in the position I was put in, would have walked. It was too hard. But I think, again, it's through a series of circumstances that you become the person you become. And I think only because I am the person I am did I do what I did. If you'd had somebody else in this position, it might have been a totally different outcome. But like, you came to me and you're like, I want a divorce. I'm like, fuck you, motherfucker. There's the door. I'm not leaving. You're not forcing me to do that. If you want to do it, there it is. But I'm not leaving because I am ridiculously stubborn, and also because I made a promise. I made a vow. Like, we are meant to love each other through the good and the bad and the hard and the ugly and the difficult and all of the things. So you owe me, I remember saying to you, you owe me one session with a counsellor, because like, you want to walk away, you want to give up. Like, let's fix the problem.
Why do you think I came to you and said that instead of just going and filing for divorce?
Respect. Just, again, the type of people that we are. We're people of our word. And again, this comes back to what I was just about to say, right? Of there's other things in life before you and I found each other that have made us the people that we are. There's other circumstances that have made us who we are. Now, my story is also that I lost a best friend at 21. I've had hard shit happen to me at a young age that nobody should ever go through. Nobody should ever lose a friend at 21 years old. Hard lesson to learn, but gave me I remember thinking when we were going through that period, I have been through harder stuff. Like the death of a friend, like to this day, at 21 years old, losing one of my best friends is still one of the hardest things I've ever been through. Because it was a very lonely period. Again, similar to this one, right? I think it's like that dark night of the soul situation, right? Where you're like, and I'm sure everybody can relate when I say this, there'll be something that's happened to you in your life where you're like laying in bed thinking, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me, right? Like, it could be death, it could be divorce, it could be, I don't know, there's so many things. It could be losing your job, it could be being like, having to file for bankruptcy, it could be illness, it could be anything, and you're just like lying there being like, this is it. And I think most people in those times are like, that's me. As in, it's on me. As in, there's nobody in this fight but me. Because although you can surround yourself with people just like you did, just like I did, at the crux of it, I was laying in bed every night by myself with this guy, Mr. Bentley, beside me, right? But it was like months. It was months of just like, I've got to battle through this. I've got to... Again, the nobody's coming to save me. And that's like resilience of the human spirit. And again, there'll be people listening that have been through way, 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 way worse shit, right? But I'm like, I think what's broadly wrong with just like, if we talk about society, I just think people are weak. And I don't mean weak in the like, just weak. I mean like, they've just no grit and resilience. They've not been taught, they've not, and unfortunately it's one of those things that like, you can't learn it till it happens. No.
What would you say the steps are though to like actually try, if somebody's listening and they want to actually build that resilient side of that mindset side of things, what would be your personal advice to them?
Put yourself in situations that are hard before life does it to you. Because life's gonna give you hard shit. That's life. I'm sorry. Like, if there's not one human being on this earth that's gonna make it to their deathbed without something hard happening to them. That is.
Had it a few years ago.
Well, yeah. I mean, okay, yeah, COVID, sure. Like, yeah, you could use that. Like that for a lot of people, that did a lot of damage. I'm not talking physically, but like careers got destroyed. Like they had to sell houses or businesses or whatever they were. One thing, or they were on the front line. They were part of that response to, in some parts of the world. I know you got listeners in the US, like where there really was like people in hospitals, literally. Like, we didn't really experience that too much down this end of the world, but make yourself do hard stuff. Like, don't make your life easy. I think you and I talk about this, right? We want to make our lives so easy, and all we've done is make ourselves stupider, fatter, sicker, dumber, because we're trying to make our life easier. Like, just do hard shit. Go pick a thing that scares the shit out of you and try and do it. And if you fail, okay, you fail. But like, I don't know. For everybody, that's going to be different, right? Like, for one person, it might be like, I'm a runner, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to try an ultra marathon. Like, that's pushing your body and your brain to the edge of your physical limits. For other people, it might be like, I'm going to completely retrain and I'm going to learn a completely new, I'm going to take my career in a different direction. Or it might be, I've never played a musical instrument, and at 40 years old, I'm going to pick up a guitar and learn to play it. Like, constantly trying to challenge yourself. And I'm not saying it has to be the hardest of the hardest, but like, get your brain in a position where you're trying new things and hard things all the time, because life will throw you hard stuff. And if you're not prepared, like, you're going to suffer a lot more, right? You're going to suffer through it a lot more than somebody who's like probably had some experience doing some hard stuff. Because you and I talked about this, about why it was so hard for you during that period. It was because until that point in your life, you'd had very little issues, very little suffering. You grew up in a very, financially secure household, mum and dad, yeah, okay, not a great relationship, but like broadly, your life was pretty freaking easy.
Today, actually, my life's been pretty easy.
Yeah, right. So you've not had any real hard shit happen to you. So that's why I think still hard, don't get me wrong, but I think I fared better than you during that period, because I already had a level of resilience from things that had already unfortunately happened to me. And that is,
an extreme level.
Yeah, like, I love that saying, hard now or hard later.
Yeah.
And that applies to everything, right? Like, you and I are really big on like health and fitness and taking care of ourselves, right? Do you think I like going to the gym every day? Fuck no. Do you think I like eating healthy every day? Okay, not that I'm like perfect, but broadly I eat, compared to a lot of my friends, a lot of the people I see,
10% is
like I'm, for my age, I think I'm in pretty good nick, right? And so I'm like, he's very sweet. But I'm like, do you honestly think I like doing that stuff? No. But if I don't do the hard stuff now and choose to do the things that are hard, my life's going to be a hell of a lot harder later. I'm not going to be able to carry my groceries up the stairs when I'm 70. I'm not going to be able to take my dogs.
Not going to be able to live here.
I won't be able to live in a 3-story house where I've got to climb stairs all the time. Not going to be able to, again, I could go on a ranting tangent. I'll get osteoporosis as a female. Like, there's so many things, and I'm like, hard now, hard later. Choose your hard, is what they say, right? Choose your hard. Have the hard conversation now, or get divorced later. Like, but we've kind of created this society of soft cock, sorry, but like people that just...
That leads us back into the whole masculinity, femininity thing, yeah.
To do anything difficult. I don't know where that, I don't know why. I don't know where, I don't know why. And again, you and I have kind of talked the participation certificate era, right? Like, where we did away with winners and losers. Well, guess what? In life there are winners, and in life there are losers. But I think, yeah, that's how I, and having this conversation is great, because it's actually reminded me, like, 2026, I need to pick something hard. What am I going to do in 2020? Oh, excuse me. What am I going to do in 2026? That's a challenge for me. That's difficult.
What's it going to be?
I don't know. I need to think about it. I push myself outside of my comfort zone. I think also at the time you were going through your mental health challenges, I was bodybuilding.
I was going to bring that up.
So I had something really mentally difficult, physically difficult that I was doing at the time, as well as the fact that I had resilience because of other previous things that had happened to me in my life. And I think, like, all of my parents' flaws, and I say this all the time, like, and Mum, if you do listen to this episode, the one thing my mum built into me, which sometimes I've got to be really careful because I can, like, do things for too long, but my parents were not wealthy by any means. I grew up in a very humble household, and so if we picked up a sport or an activity or something for a term or a year, my parents my parents, my mother would always be like, you have to finish it. You have to finish what you start. You cannot quit. I'm not raising no quitters, basically, right? And so I've read a really great book. I can't remember who it's by. I read it years ago. It's called Grit. Angela Duckworth.
Yeah, it's a good book.
And when I read that book, I was like, oh, this is what my mum kind of instilled in me, right? This like grittiness of like, I don't quit when shit gets hard. Clearly, I mean this politely, we probably wouldn't be together if I quit when shit get hard. I'm stubborn, I'm gritty, like all of those things. Again, all these circumstances that have brought me to this point in my life to make me who I am. But yeah, I think like reading that book, I was like, this is what mum did. She taught us, well, she taught me at least, like, Kendall, if you're listening, I love you. But like, Kendall's not gritty, and I'm not being nasty. This is my sister. She's
really way, but not.
She's not, because she's the baby. There's again lots of circumstances, but for me, it is definitely something that, and I actually know that's not fair. Kendall is gritty. She's just gritty in a different way. Whereas I'm like, to a fault, actually.
Yeah, you are.
Like, to a fault. I will not quit when shit gets hard. But on the flip side of that, God, it's given me and afforded me some incredible opportunities in my life because I haven't quit. And I genuinely think the things I've gotten to do in my career is an example of having to do shit I didn't want for years and taking jobs and doing roles to do things that were like not quite right, but I knew that if I did that and I stuck with it and I gave it a good go, that like that would lead to the next thing and that would lead to the next thing, and that's literally what happened, and then around the time you had your issues, that's when my career really got to a point where I was like doing the shit I really, really loved to do. So yeah, grit, like, but it's like anything. Do the things before life forces it on you. Build the relationship. Do the things. Like, otherwise, guess what? Life will serve it up to you on a platter. It'll happen.
When you least expect it as well.
Yep. That's the old roller coaster analogy. Except you and I now, we're like, we know. We sit there and we know. We're like, oh, this is great. And we're like, particularly when you get to the point where like, this is real good. Like, things are like on a real, like they're on a really good trajectory. And then you're like, I'm waiting for the
When's it gonna fall? When are we getting the apex? Yeah, when are we getting the apex? Like,
yeah, hopefully the drop is not as drastic as the last drop. Yeah. But that's it. Like,
you get through that drop faster because of the last time. Like, I think to the times of like when Grandma passed away. What are we up to? We're coming up to 2 years.
Yep. Yeah.
So I'm like, 2 years ago, my grandma passed away, and as we kind of insinuated on, my grandma and my mom ran $1 million a year chiropractic business, was not really home all that much, would leave around the time I went to school, and then we'd home to put me in a bed a lot of the times, or late at night. And I love my mom. I have fairly good, let's just leave it at I love my mom. We have a good relationship. We have ups and downs, just like any parent. But my grandma actually, when I was really young, my mom had my grandma come into town, and she looked after my brother and I. And so when she passed away, I remember it. Again, at that stage, I'd never lost that I remembered or been. I mean, my great grandma passed away, and it did. But I was a teenager. Something that meant so much to me that that I felt very close to, and have become even closer to since being an adult. And yeah, I remember I was like, "Wow, this is hitting me so much worse than I thought that it was going to."
I knew it. This guy tried to tell me, he's like, "Oh, I'll be fine." I'm like, We'll just wait till it.
Because of all the resilient things that I'd been through and going through my own mental health journey and all of that, I actually do believe that I got through it way faster.
Yeah, no doubt.
Than if I had. If I didn't have all the tools and resources and strategies and things that I know work for me in the hard times.
100%.
Definitely wouldn't have gone through it as fast.
Absolutely.
I think I've been teary through this episode.
More than. Yeah.
Again, let's go back to that masculine and feminine. Just because you get teary does not. In fact, actually feeling those emotions is probably the most important thing,
That's right. Well, that's what I was saying, right? That's what I was trying to say when we were talking about the communication. It's like communicating how you're feeling or allowing yourself to feel was actually more masculine than trying to stuff all that emotion away.
We had some things happen recently where like I was really strong there for Kristyn and was putting myself to the side, which, to be perfectly honest, is a masculine trait, and we have to do it at times, guys. We have to put our shit to the side. But at the same time, I came to Kristyn and told her after the fact when she was in a good place or a better place, told her what was going on. But I remember I was at a stage where was therefore pushing my stuff to the side, stayed home from work one day even, and then the next day went to work and riding my motorcycle to work, and it's the worst place to actually get super emotional, but was getting off the motorway to go to work and just felt myself getting really angry. And I know when I get angry, it's actually an emotion that I'm not dealing with. And so it's like, okay, what's beneath the anger? And I remember it was helplessness. And I won't go into what was going on, but I felt helpless, and all of a sudden I just started bawling my eyes out. Stopped at the lights and just waterworks started. Now, I know there's a lot of guys out there who'd be like, oh, you can gushy, like, what? But no, that's actually feeling your emotions and actually working through them. And in my opinion, I love your thoughts, is that's a true masculine guy. A guy that lets those things kind of go and is there. And then I came home that night, and actually that day I called up my best friend and was like, hey, bro, I need you. We've got a code word. It's a Simon Sinek thing, but I need 8 minutes. And he called me 17 minutes later and was like, dude, I'm 17 minutes late. I'm so sorry. And we sat there and we talked for, it was a little bit more than 8 minutes, but he helped me through it. Then I came home, talked to Kristyn, and we put some, but again, that communication, like we talked about, so important. And told her how I was feeling. Not that it was taking away from what she was feeling at the time, but how I was feeling.
Well, we care about each other, right? Yeah. But I just think, masculinity, femininity aside, like, human beings are meant to feel. Yes. And feelings are not the truth. I just want to what you feel isn't the truth, which, that might be a bit odd.
But it's what you filtered from that.
It's what you've filtered through your biases and your experiences and your life story. But what I mean is, like, you don't feel stuff, you really start to get into serious trouble. Like, not feeling, and that's men and women, right? Well, lots of people,
my dark days,
lots of people do this, right? And you see people, I think I've had an experience recently with somebody who was like apologizing for and it was a male, apologizing for their emotion.
It was all the time.
And I just was like, please don't do that. Like, the last thing I would ever want is to somebody to, like, not feel what they're feeling because,
with fear or rejection.
Or... I got a big belief. There's that good book, The Body Keeps the Score, right? Like, you can't like stuff emotion into a way and just not expect that it's not going to manifest somewhere else later on, whether that be physically, mentally, emotionally. Human beings, you can only take so much. The human soul can only take so much, right? And so I just think it's healthy in all aspects, male or female, to just, like, feel it. Yeah. Feel it. And, like, when you get good at starting to do that, then it's like, okay, feel the feeling. Okay, acknowledge it. Where's that coming? Like, then you can let it go. Otherwise, like, a lot of people just, like, keep the emotion and hold on to it and hold on to it and hold on to it and hold on to it. And like, yeah. But then it's still there. You haven't, like, processed it.
Have you processed it? We've talked about this, and, like, we've talked about this just the other day, and I've talked about it on here. An old coach of mine was like, if you feel it in the very beginning, when you first start to feel it, you feel it it takes you 90 seconds to work through it. And most of the time, that first 90 seconds, all of a sudden, you've moved through it and moved past it. But if you don't feel that 90 seconds and you wait decades later, it takes you so long to work
But again,
through it all.
Hard now, hard later.
Yeah.
Hard now, hard later. Like, it's going to be hard. Sometimes feeling what you feel sucks. But if you
don't conversations.
That's right. Like, anything hard. No, do you think any human being but you're basically, like, delaying the inevitable.
Yeah.
You're delaying the inevitable by not doing the hard thing. Hard conversation, dealing with emotion, whatever it is. And that's not a great place. It's not a great place to live from. No. Yeah. But I definitely would be like, men and women should both do that. And I don't think it's unhealthy. In fact, I think it's more unhealthy. I think you end up with more toxic masculinity from men that don't know how to process and feel emotions. because that's generally when it becomes bad, because they lock it away, but then anger explodes because men generally go to anger. That's generally where men go, right? So it's like you're holding on to it, you're mad about it, you're sad about it, you're whatever you're feeling about whatever the thing is that you're feeling, but you just like told yourself you've got to harden up and you just got to like not feel the thing. But actually then what's going to happen? Who's going to bear the brunt of that? Somebody else, right? And then that's when...
Or your partner will at some stage.
It's somebody else, or your children, or your mother, or your father, or whoever, and it'll come out at the wrong time in the wrong place because you haven't processed it. Like, and that's way worse. So, like, you know, don't allow your emotions to become somebody else's, and don't hurt. Hurt people. If you're hurting, energy's got to go somewhere, right? You can only beat yourself up for so long before somebody else is going to bear the brunt of your hurt, you know. And we've both got people in our lives where that's their coping mechanism, right? Is just bottle it, taught to not deal with it, not know how to, or not learn the skills to do the thing, and then they just spread that to all of the people that are around them, and they hurt the people around them because they can't deal with it themselves.
So how, as the female in that relationship, do you help a guy who has not learned that? So that they can't, like, so that they have like a,
I guess I think for me it's about like trying to, you know, again, this is like, I'm going to talk about this for like another whole hour. We don't really like have an hour, but I think as women, it's like learning to release control. I think women, and I know I'm bad, like I've been bad at this.
Do you think this is a masculine feminine thing again?
100%. Like, I think it's about like, as a woman, if you're a true feminine woman with a truly masculine partner, which I would say majoritively, if you're in a, you know, a heterosexual monogamous relationship, you're probably going to find that the majority of men are masculine and women are feminine at a core, right? Like that's who they
driving.
Well, yeah, you're probably not heterosexual. if you're not
Even in a non-heterosexual relationship, it's the same thing. One will be more masculine than
but what I mean is, you're probably, if you're in a heterosexual monogamous relationship, the man is going to be masculine and the woman is going to be feminine generally. And again, I'm generalizing. I think as a woman, you just need to like soften and not become the masculine, right? Like, I know, and I'm guarantee every woman out there will like laugh or nod their heads when I say this. Telling a man what to do and trying to control him and tell him he needs to do this or act this way or not do this is probably not going to get you the response that you want, right? Because you're acting masculine towards a masculine man. He's just going to be like, F you, like, bugger off. Like, I'm not listening to you. So, like, I would caution to learn about femininity, learn about what that means for you, and, like, soften into it and support and be there to question, and also allow your husband or partner to lead. Like, stop trying to control everything. Stop trying to, like, give him the opportunity to step up. Give him the opportunity to make some decisions, to do some things. Let him do some stuff. Like, I guarantee a lot of people I know don't even like allow the space for their husbands or their partners to do that. They just like take control of everything all the time. I mean, hello, I'll put my hand up. I have been bad at that in the past, right? It's like, how can I ever expect you to do that when I don't give you any space, or I control you, or I tell you what to do, or where to be, or what to wear, or how to act, or like
it's so funny on that. There's so many guys that I'll talk to, and I'll be like, oh, you know, I'm going home to see Kristyn, or, you know, oh no, I can't because, you know, I want. They're like, oh, you know, that ball, you know, the ball and chain thing. I'm like, no, I'm choosing to go home to her. As long as I communicate with you and tell you, like, if I tell you I'm going to be home at 9 and then I don't tell you, actually, no, I'm not going to, or this is why a lot of times these days, like, I'll go paragliding, and you'll go, what time do you think you'll be home? These days, I don't even say a time, because I'm like, I actually have no idea. Do you need me home at a time? Because if you do, then I will aim to be, I will turn up for that. And that's that respect side. But it's that, again, that controlling side. It used to be that I felt that there was more of the, not that you ever told me to be home at a certain time, or that you like, why aren't you home? but it was more along the lines of like there was even more of that if I told you a time there wasn't a buffer of a like you're not home, like why aren't you home? Whereas these days,
I don't think I've ever been that.
yeah, it's even more lenient. If I'm not home, you just kind of are like, okay, like Chris has gotten busy, or you don't like it because I don't communicate with you on it. But as long as I tell you, oh, I know I said I was going to be home at 7 o'clock, but now I'm out with the boys and we're actually having a few more drinks. We're having lots of fun. You go, okay, but again, you'll communicate with me as well. Actually, I have something planned. I need you to, and then it's like, oh, okay.
But again, that's quite a different situation to me. That's like couples get into this, yeah, couples get into this weird passive aggressive shit, like where it's like they don't tell their partner or their husband what they actually mean or need. So they like expect their husband or partner to be a freaking mind reader, and it's like I just am like, huh? How are they meant to know that if you didn't communicate that to them? Like to that example, I'm like, if I needed you to be somewhere, like this happened the other week, and I was like, no, we've got a dinner, or I can't remember what was going on, but it's like, no, we've got to be somewhere by that time. So like, if you're going to go paragliding, like you need to be home by X point.
Yeah, right. Saying we were going to dinner with people, and you're like, "Are you going? You have to make sure."
We did that. Like, you need to be home, and then it was like, okay, you were home because you.
I was exhausted, but we communicated the fact that I probably was going to be exhausted.
Totally, but also like for me, I'm like, it's again, it comes back to the respect thing, and for me particularly, although I don't think I've ever been that bad at it, but for me particularly, it's also my upbringing in my childhood. My dad used to disrespect my mum all the time. He would say to her, "Oh, I'm going to soccer club. I'll be home by 5 p.m." and then he never fucking show up. He wouldn't come home till 1 o'clock in the morning. And like mum same thing. Mum had told him that we needed to be somewhere, that we had something to do, to spend time as a family, and my dad just wouldn't show. So for me, I see that because of my lens, my bias, my childhood as a lack of respect. If you are like, would you do that to somebody else? Would you do it to one of your friends? If you told your friend, I'm coming to meet you for dinner, or we're going to meet for a beer at like 5 o'clock, and then you just didn't tell your mate that you got stuck somewhere else, and you just like turned up at 9 o'clock and expected him to still be sitting there on the bar stool, how fucked off would your friend be, right? But yet people do it to their partners all the time, like, and then they expect them to not be mad about it. I'm like, it's not that. It's that you didn't tell me. Like, if you'd said to me, hey, actually, no, I'm not going to be there till 9. I could choose to do something else. I could choose to not go to the bar. I could turn up to the bar on time. You've just wasted 4 hours of my time. And same thing, would you do that in a work context? Absolutely.
It's also the thing, like, I think about it a lot of, like, would I want this done to me?
But also,
I want this person to treat me because that's the way I'm going to treat them.
But also, is this acceptable in any other circumstance? No, and that comes back to what we were talking about before. Somehow we get, not we, the broader we, somehow couples get themselves into these like situations where they start treating the person that they're meant to love the most like not even as good as a piece of shit on their show, right? Like,
not even as good as our worst enemy.
Right. So they start and I just don't know how. I honestly, because I don't think you and I have ever experienced this, I just don't understand why. Again, circumstance, life is hard. Shit is hard, but like, you're meant to be a team. And as soon as it's not a team, you're in trouble. Like, you've really got to be like, what the heck am I doing here? Why am I treating this person this way? But I'm just like, for me, I'm like, if one of my friends told me they were meeting me for dinner at 5 and left me sitting at a restaurant till 9 p.m, I would be fuming mad. But yet somehow couples get to a point where they think that's acceptable to do it to their spouse. And I just find that wildly.
Sadly, a lot of times it's the guy doing it to the woman.
Yeah, sadly it is. But again, again, I come back to why is he doing that in the first place? There's a root cause to everything, right? And I mean this, ladies, are you nagging him? Are you like doing, and I'm not saying you shouldn't set boundaries and you shouldn't expect him to be home at a certain time. I'm not saying that, but I'm just like,
you're nagging him about the little things that really don't matter.
I just think you got to look at, again, the only person you could look at and control is your behavior. And this kind of comes back to the question you asked me before, how do you get a man to like do what needs to be done? Well, actually, I think it's a lot less nagging, telling and controlling, and a lot more space and so space, communication, and I also think it's like setting an expectation of the man you want him to be. Hold him to a standard. hold him to a level, not in a nagging, controlling, bitchy way, in a like, I mean, I think I do this with you, right? I love you. I respect you. I know you're better than this. I know that you, you know, I'm trying to kind of paraphrase here, but it's like, I know that you don't want to make me feel this way. I know that you want to be the best husband you can be. So it's like inviting you to step up to the level of great husband, great father, great whatever it is, right? Like, be the man you want to be.
Yeah.
Just like I'll be the wife and partner and sister and all of that, best friend that I want to be. Like, I can only control my actions, but like inviting somebody to do something versus telling them, and I'm sure mums, women listening out there, you know, when you tell your kids to do something and they don't freaking do it, again, it's a totally different scenario if you approach the situation. Guide them to the answer. Tell them that you're a team, that you're in it together, that you want to get to the best outcome, that you want them to be this man that you saw, that you married, that you know, that you see, because you wouldn't have married him otherwise. You married the guy for a reason, you know, like, and I've seen this even with my friends that have gotten divorced, split up, whatever, right? Like, because we've definitely had friends that are already on to different marriages and stuff. It's like, you loved that person at a point. You loved that. You saw something in that person at a point. Like, yep, things might have gotten bad, but like, they're not bad people. People aren't bad people. People don't choose to do bad things or to upset people willingly. I mean, yes, okay, there are some psychopaths out there, but broadly, most people aren't trying to purposely hurt.
It's funny, though, the amount of guys that I know that have been divorced, the number one biggest thing is she nagged me.
Yeah, there you go. So it's that.
She nagged me and she wasn't there. We didn't have sex. We didn't, I felt like I was alone.
Yeah. But I also think that comes down to that, again, we've kind of got this environment of women, again, the woman being hyper independent era, right? Where they kind of are almost approaching their marriage or their relationship. You know, I said this for years and I've really changed this terminology. People used to be like, oh, like, why do you think you and Chris work so well? And I used to say, you'll know exactly what I mean when I say this. Oh, I don't need Chris. I want to be with him, and I choose him.
We both used to say that. We got together because both of us at that time did not need each other, but found each other. And yes, that's true. I wasn't trying to grasp onto things. You weren't trying to grasp on anybody. But at the same time, yeah.
Well, it's no. Like, I used to say that, and I truly believed it, and I still believe it. I want to be with you. There's definitely truth in that. But I've stopped saying I don't need you.
Very true.
I don't say that anymore because I do need you. You know, and I do want you to be there, and I do need you to help me. And again, it's letting down the walls of hyper independence of like, I can do everything for myself. There are certain things that I can't do without you. There's certain things that I want you to do for me, you know, like I did it the other day and you're like, what are you doing? I climbed on the kitchen bench because, again, I'm a short human and we've got really tall cupboards. And so I just like climbed up to get this thing. And Chris was like, what are you doing? Like, I can do that for you. And I was already there. So I was like, yeah. But in my head, I was like, yeah, I should have let him do this for me. Like, it kind of comes back to that other thing we were doing.
It hits my needs as well because it's like, I'm here because I know, like, I need to show that I can protect you. But in that situation, it was both of them. It was providing the getting to the top shelf, but it was also protecting you from falling and killing yourself.
But again, this comes back to like another conversation you and I were having last night about, you know, my boss said this week in a meeting. It was like, by not allowing other people to do stuff for you, you're actually taking a gift from them. You're not giving people the opportunity to see in you what they see in you, or to help you in a way that they want to help you. And so by trying to do everything yourself, you're actually like taking away from other people. And so I'm like, yeah, and it's not the first time I've heard that. It's just like a great reminder, and in the context of this conversation, that it's like, yeah, you need to let other people, you know, help you out. Like, but actually I do need you, you know, like if you know, I don't know, somebody's breaking into this house, I absolutely need you. I absolutely need you. But like, and that's it, right? I'm not talking about like being a fucking trad wife or any of that shit. That's like another whole thing, right? It's like, I'm just going to stay at home and bake and do all this shit all day. Absolutely not. Like, but I joke around with Chris. I'm like, if we were in a position where I didn't have to work because of financial opportunities, okay, I would absolutely take on the role of like making sure that your life was, but it's not about traditional roles. To me, it's about trying to make your life as my husband easier, which I do regard.
We saw this. COVID hit.
Yeah.
You lost your job overnight when COVID hit. I went and got a second job on top of running my own business at the time, went and did all of that. I came home and you had made like I was doing 12-hour shifts at that time, plus also trying to run my own business at the same time.
Because it's about making your life easier.
Food was cooked. Like food was cooked. You went and did the grocery shopping. You may have had a few glasses of wine by the time I got home, but hey, that's another story.
That's another day. Yeah.
Like everything, like I didn't have to worry about coming home and then having to do other things. And yes, I know that I can be bad at that at times, again, because it is not ingrained into me, and I feel like I've gotten better on it over the years. But it's that side of, and I don't live at home. I work. I'm at work all the time.
That'd be another thought process, but carry on.
It is. We give. It goes back to that relationships are not 50-50.
Give.
It is 100-100. Sometimes I cannot give 100. There's been weeks recently as well where I'm like, I'm not able to, so Kristyn is. And then there's times where, there are times again recently as well where Kristyn was only able to give like 10%, if that. And so it's like, cool, I'm picking up the game here.
Yeah, totally. This just sparked another thought in me about, we were talking about what has been the issue of this like rise and the change in like femininity and masculinity over the years, and I'm like coming back to my ranting tangent about women, right? So like women have now got all of these equal opportunities. Again, I will say 100% women should have all these things. But what hasn't changed is what the expectations on women. So you and I know this is not a problem for us because we don't have kids, but for all of my female friends, all of my female that are mothers, what has happened is nothing has changed for men in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years. Men are the provider. Men go to work. They catch the animal. Nowadays, catching the animal is making the money. And they come home. Women used to, before the invention of the pill, back in like my grandmother's era and older.
Before World War I and World War II, where it was forced upon them.
It was forced upon them, and then the pill revolutionized that.
Because the men had to go actually physically protect, and so things had to,
What I was going to say is that our grandmothers and all of the generations before that, being a mum was being a mum. There was nothing else. So women stayed at home and did all the things we were just talking about. There was no other expectations. Nowadays, 99% of my female friends are working mothers, but are also coming home to raise children and do all the things that mothers have traditionally done. And so this is why I think women have gotten into this, like, I'll just do it all myself, because really the world, society is expecting them to do it all, to be able to do everything, to work, to make the money, to run the household, to raise the kids, to clean the house, to do the cooking, whatever. I'm like, man, if you're listening and you have a wife that is going to work equal hours as you, even close to equal hours,
get home is equal.
Everything should be equal when it comes to raising your children.
I remember I was having a conversation with Matt Thomas, which I know you haven't met personally, but he's a chief of police in Arizona, and I've known him for a few years now, and he was on the podcast, I think like four or five episodes back, maybe 6. And he was talking about this exact thing. He's like, my wife works, I work. He's like, their kids aren't so young anymore, but he's like, even still, he's like, I come home, he's like, I'll vacuum, I do the laundry, I'll do, he's like, we have different things that we do, and at times, yes, I'll do more, at times, yes, she'll do more, but we are to share the load of the household because we're both working.
I also think,
and sometimes he's like, again, it comes back to that 50-50. Sometimes he's like, I'll come home and because of whatever's happened at work, which, he's like, I had something, he's like, then we have this conversation and it's like, you communicate. And so, or, as relationships go on, you can kind of read that person as well, their energy.
Yeah, but it's also like, don't become passive aggressive about it. Don't be like, oh, we've both worked and you're not doing, like, don't do that to each other. Just be like, we're both exhausted. Like, maybe tonight's takeaways, because neither of us have got it in us to do the thing that needs to be done, right? Like, we don't have kids and there's days we're like, no, we're done.
Yeah.
Like, we can't do this, But I do think the other thing men underestimate is women are naturally a lot. As Chris will tell you, he calls it the 256,000 Google tabs that are open in a woman's brain. Women tend to take on more of the emotional load of a household. So it's the stuff you can't see, right? Mums, females tend to worry about all the things that men just don't innately worry about. And that's they just don't see, right? And so I think, again, if you're a man, you're a husband, you've got children, even if you don't have children, like, even if you're sharing the load, I think it's don't forget that your wife is probably worrying about a bunch of other shit. And so I think women naturally tend to take on just a lot more than men do when
It's all
But then I come back to the radical honest communication.
yeah, exactly.
Circle back to the thing I keep talking about this entire podcast, which is like, okay, woman, female, the females listening, if you're feeling like that, fucking tell them.
Yeah.
Like, hey, honey, not in a nagging him way to do the thing or bath the kids, or it's just like, sit him down and be like, I'm emotionally, if I said to you, I'm emotionally exhausted. I've taken, I don't know, I'm going to use my best friend's kids' names. I've taken Zach to kindy today and Indy to school, and this happened and this happened. I had to take the dog to the vet and all of this stuff. And I knew I promised you that I was going to do it, but I just can't. I'm actually really feeling really emotionally warped and drained. I just can't do this today. Instead of just getting angry that he's gone to work and come home and he can't drain your brain, I'm just sit him down and have an honest conversation.
And the other thing as well that I will say, men, is we like to fix things. Two things here. They don't always need you to fix things, which is so hard. It's so hard to just not go, just quit your job. I joke about this because it was a thing.
He did. He told me.
I literally told her this, and it just pissed her off. But it's also is going, okay, cool. Even asking the question, in a way, it is trying to fix it, but what can I do for you now?
Yeah, I think the other great question you ask is do you want me to help you, or do you want me to just listen?
Yeah.
It's a great question.
And if they say just listen, it's so hard. It is so hard.
But just listen. Do what the other person wants. This comes down to, again, I think that's innately knowing the person. What do they need? Not what do you want to give? What do they actually need from you in this moment? And that comes down to you could go down the love languages route or whatever, but I'm they don't need you to fix shit. Right in this second, they just want the safety. They want their husband to wrap his arms around you and say, it's okay, honey. I got you. I got you. We're a team. Just sit down. You don't have to worry. I'm just gonna stand here and give you a hug.
Off the back of that, a really good strategy, and we've talked about this for years as well. A really good strategy with that as well is if you women are feeling like you're doing everything and the guy's not doing stuff, is one, sit down and ask, your man, sit down and have that brutal conversation with him, but also
kind way though,
not in a nagging way. Again, we come back to that nagging thing.
It's not going to get you anywhere.
It's not going to get you anywhere because he will just put up armor and he will just shut down as well. And just like when you try and fix things for a woman, or there's a really good video, just go Google it. It's called "It's Not About the Nail." And it's a skit of a woman with a nail in her head, and she's sitting there complaining that she has a headache and all these different things. And the guy's like, "There's a nail in your head. Pull the freaking nail out and we fix." And she just keeps going on, and she keeps going on, and then finally he just goes, "I'm sorry. I totally get it. I'm sorry that your head hurts. You just give me a hug." And all of a sudden she's everything's fixed. But it's that for guys as well, as we like to fix things. So women realize that if you give us a list, we've talked about this for ages. You give us a list, or you put it on the calendar, or you tell me that you need, you tell me in black and white, and don't beat around all the you tell me black and white. I might not want to hear it initially, but then it's oh, she said that she wants she wants me to wipe the water around and actually pay attention to it. Now, it's taken a dozen times of her telling me, But
I also bring humor into
but then she brings humor into it, and
I don't nag.
that's actually what shifted and changed it the most. Let's take that specific thing for me.
I didn't nag.
Is as soon as you stopped nagging, because she did for a while. As soon as she stopped nagging and she was like, "Okay, Shamu, like you're still doing it," and I was like, "Shamu," I was like, "Oh," and so now every time I go and I do something at the sink.
I think what he was what Shamu is.
So Shamu, so it's an old movie from the 90s that is called Free Willy, and it's a big killer whale that is put in captivity. His name's Shamu, and he puts water in the brain all the time, sprays water over people. The SeaWorld, just look up SeaWorld and you'll.
I basically called him Shamu.
Because I'm splashing water everywhere. And so now, every time I'm there, and correct me if I'm wrong, 99% of the time, though, 99% of the time, there's no water around the sink anymore. Because anytime I'm there, I now go,
oh, shit.
Hey, one, she's given me a task. You clean the water up after every time you use it. And in my mind, I didn't actually see the water. I mean, I said this to her. I don't actually see the water. Perspective. Yeah. And so she doesn't understand the fact that I can't see the water. But now it's like every time I actually use the sink, I go, oh, I don't want to be Shamu. And so I just wipe the sink. Even if there's no water, I start to look for the water because I don't want to be Shamu. But again, there's these communications, and you understand your partner on this. And it's the same thing with Kristyn. I will say things and she'll come back at me with something, and I'll be like, okay, but this is how I feel, and this is what I need, and this is why. And then she'll understand that because, again, it's more that emotional side for women. Guys is more of a task-driven, and it's a lot more black and white than it is emotional for a masculine guy. And so it's just some of those, like, yeah.
I just think, when you start getting into, like, trying to, like, not, I don't know, just, like, trying to wind your partner up, or, like...
Oh, I can wind you up, I just go splash water on the sink. And don't put the dinner in.
It's like a conversation that's going on about, like, you're not doing your share, or you haven't folded up the washing today, or, like, whatever it is. It's, it's like... you start to become this like nitpicky, angry, passive-aggressive, nasty person, and
it's also realizing they're not like they're not always attacking you as well. I know for me, a lot of times it feels like sometimes you're attacking me on things, and I'm like, no, this is how Kristyn feels. This is what she needs. Okay, cool. Do I want to give this to her?
It comes back to that principle of like, what are you trying to do for your partner?
Yeah.
You're trying to make their life easier. You're trying to like get along. You're trying to like live life as a team. Like, again, life is hard. Yeah. The world today is heavier and harder than it's ever been. And like, for me personally, I can't imagine coming home. Not that I often leave this home because I work from home, but like, I couldn't imagine you coming home each day and it just being like you and I at each other's throats about stupid stuff. Like, to me, well, no, and that's where people get to divorce. I guess that's where I'm kind of going with this, is just like, this should be the place where we're a team. We've got each other's back. We're solid. Like, it's us against the world. Correct. And also my thing is like, I don't really ever say anything bad about you anyway, but like, I am your biggest cheerleader. Like, you're never gonna ever hear me put you down.
You just have to watch more episodes of this and listen to them, and you will hear how much I cheerlead and appreciate.
Like, right, it's just like, we're each other's cheerleaders. Like, when I hear couples, or if I'm somewhere and somebody's like saying something negative about their partner, I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
you're bringing that energy home.
Well, it's not even that. You're telling other people that you disrespect the person you're meant to care about the most. And all that tells me when a person does that is how disrespectful you are as a person. Like, I don't trust you anymore. If you're the person you love and cherish the most, and you're throwing them under the bus to your workmates, your colleagues, your friends, just like, in an open forum where you're like bagging your...
You're having conversations with somebody because you want
deep and meaningful conversation where you've got like one-on-one with your best friend. I'm not talking about that type of stuff. I'm talking about like being out of the bar and saying your wife's a nagging bitch or like whatever, right? I'm like maybe she is, but that is not like, you've now just told everybody the state of your relationship, and my thing is like, our relationship is sacred. I'll talk about stuff, I'll share with the world, but I'm never gonna go out there and be like, Chris is an asshole, Chris did this, Chris did that. Like, you don't anyway, but like, even if we had troubles, right? Like, as in troubles that were we've had troubles. When we've had those troubles, they've been external forces on us, like your mental health and stuff like that, right? I wasn't sharing our troubles from the respect of like, Chris has done this to me, Chris has done that to me. I was sharing it from the, I'm helping Chris get better, this is what's happening. Like, again, being your cheerleader of like, I'm behind him, I'm backing him, he's gone to do this thing, and I'm like, it's hard, but that's what I'm here for. I'm his wife, to make him, a better person. Like, it wasn't like I've spent, hours and hours and hours of therapy on a couch with a counselor, and this is like, like I wasn't like, he's done this to me and he's done that to me. Like, it's never been.
We're having some struggles, and we're going through stuff.
But how other people to not go through that stuff. So here's what we're doing, and here's what you could do to solution. I'm a solutions focused person. I'm a glass half full kind of girl. I've never, I'm always looking at the bright side. There's never a reason to not look at things through that lens. It's all in your perspective. You can choose to see the bad, you can choose to see the good. That's your choice. It's your choice just to find the thing, right? And you and I we talked about this yesterday. You and I can look at the same thing and see two totally different things because of our perspective. It's all in your choice. It's all in your control. It's all in your power to see the best in every situation, and that in the context of this conversation, to see it in the person you love the most. Yeah. You can see the annoying, stupid shit, or you can see the person that you fell in love with. And yep, people change, people are different. I'm not saying stay somewhere where you're hurt or you're being abused or you're being I'm not saying any of that, but I'm like, I think a lot of problems could be solved by like people really like going back to that foundation and communicating and sticking through some hard stuff. Like, the stuff we've been through has happened to many, many people. Oh. We are not the only people that have gone through what you and I have gone through, right? The reason we're still together is because we chose to do it together.
Yeah.
The reason we're still together is because we chose to tackle the problem as a team. How much more lonely is the world if you're trying to do everything on your own?
Yeah, no, it's, yeah.
Imagine trying to go through what we both went through separately.
I've said.
Imagine trying to do what you did by yourself. Imagine me trying to be on the other end, trying to do what I did. Like, yes, we were both by ourselves when we were doing the things, but what I mean was like not having each other to do those things, not knowing that there was somebody else that had our back, no matter what, right? Like, I mean, that's all anybody wants, Like, I guess this is like a great place to maybe end the conversation, because we could talk for another literally 5 hours.
As you can tell, you're
gonna have to cut this into 2 episodes, probably.
Yeah, we're over 2 hours now.
That's it. Like, I honestly think that is the crux of it. That deep down, all humans just want somebody to love them, to love and to be loved, and that is, I think that's a Moulin Rouge quote, but it like literally that is it. That is the sole thing in life, right? Like, we're all going to meet the same fate. We're all going to die. Nothing that you do in this life can go with you. Nothing material, nothing you create, nothing you buy, nothing none of that. No car, no house, no dress, nothing that you currently have in your physical environment is going with you to wherever the next thing is, whatever it is you believe in, whether that's heaven, whether that's an afterlife, whether that's a reincarnation. Like, you can't take it with you. And you and I talk about this all the time. Like, what do we want for the end of our life? I want to be sitting on that porch in that rocking chair, holding hands with you, looking back and being like, we did the best. We became the best versions of ourselves. We loved deeply. We gave deeply. We connected deeply. And when somebody shows up at my funeral, I want them to talk about how I made them feel. They're not going to remember what I did for a living. Some might, but they're not going to remember what I did for a living. They're not going to remember the fucking designer handbags I had, which I love designer handbags, but like, they're not going to remember.
Any designer handbag companies, if you want to sponsor them.
They're not going to remember any of that. Like, I love having all those things again, but like, the older I get, the more I'm like, experiences, time with the people that I love and care about. Like, That's the shit that matters. And loving people, like genuinely loving people and making people feel loved and less alone. Like, that's what I think I'm here to do. That's what I genuinely think I'm here to help people come to realize, is they're safe with me. They're loved by me. They're respected by me, and recently we've had friends with a lot of difficult shit, and I feel very privileged that when people are going through hard shit, who do they get in contact with?
You do really well at it. I've always said this. You should be the coach, not me.
Like, but that's what I mean, like people feel, just the other day I had a friend message me feeling bad that she was messaging me because she was having a hard day. And I'm like, don't ever apologize for that. I'm in such a privileged position that I am the person that you've chosen to divulge, that you feel safe enough to come to me with your problems. Like, that is a very privileged position to be in, and not one I ever take lightly, But that's it. All humans just want to be loved. They just want to find that person or people, they want to be loved by their loved ones. Or find, we spend our lives in pursuit of finding the one, and I guess we're lucky. We found that very, very early, but it's been work. It's hard work. Like,
one is who you
the
most effort into.
That's right. It's like anything in life, it's like becoming the best in the world at like the 100 meters. Anymore. Is it still Usain Bolt?
No, he retired.
But like Usain Bolt, to do that, what's that take? Hard work, repetition, doing it every day, focus all the time, becoming the best, sometimes failing, sometimes making mistakes, but never wavering on the fact that, like, that's the thing you wanted. And so it's the same with a marriage. Like, that's the person I want, and I'm going to stick with it when it's hard, when it sucks, when it's amazing. Like, but you don't deserve the good if you can't go through the bad. Everybody, we're in an era now where everybody just wants the good stuff, and nobody wants to, like, do the hard stuff.
That's where you learn the most.
Well, it's also where you grow. Yeah.
So we will wrap up there because we're over 2 hours. We could keep talking forever, and so I'm sure that we will be back. Actually, on that, before I ask the closing question that I always ask, I've started a tradition. Is if you want to see Kristyn on here again, just drop it in the comments and just drop Chris or just drop yes, like whatever you want to put down there to kind of push that. Let's hear. I want to hear that, and I want to hear how you enjoyed today. Final question I always ask to kind of wrap up. If you could hand every man on the planet a single insight that would unlock his potential to lead, love, and live with purpose, what would you tell him?
It's a very deep question. I'm not a man, so that's tricky. But as a woman, I would say find something you're wildly passionate about and go after it. So, like, find a cause that you can really, men are wired to be solely focused on hunting the thing, whatever that thing is. So there's that. I think that gives you a purpose. It gives you a reason to get up. It gives you, it's not about the money. It's about something that you can, really live a life in pursuit of. And that could be all sorts of things. It doesn't have to be a career. It could be something else. But actually, I think you, as men and as women, but we're talking about men here, you owe it to yourself to understand who you are as a person. And the number one thing that has made the most impact in, I know, your life and my life, is to go and figure out where your traumas lie, where your childhood traumas lie, because everything starts there. And it doesn't have to be big T trauma. I'm not talking about the super hard, and there are people that will have big T trauma. I'm talking about the things that have made you the way that you are, and work on the things. Don't place the blame elsewhere. Radical responsibility for your life, radical responsibility for who you are, and trying to become the best version of you, not for anybody else, but for yourself. And that's probably, the one thing that I feel for you, if I look at you as a man, what has shifted most for you is by taking radical accountability, radical ownership, learning who you are, digging into those things that
maybe are the not so good parts of you, or the things that make you react in a not so great way, and trying to, you know, pull those things apart and make them better, and constantly refining yourself and learning that, like, knowing that growth is never ends, that you're never ever going to be finished becoming the person that you are. Like, and nobody's coming to save you. As a man, nobody's coming to save you.
No.
And if you're
the one that saves others.
right, if you want to be a good man, like, you need to be not the savior, but I don't like using that terminology because that kind of gets into hero complex situations. But like
another conversation
for another day. But I'm like, I just do think, like, you know, if you want to be a man, the man that your family deserves, that the world deserves, like, step up. Step up, do the work to become the best version of you, for you, and only by doing that, you can't really go wrong. You can't really go wrong if you're trying to make yourself better every day. So,
thank you. Thanks for being here. I love you very much.
I love you too. Thanks for inviting me on the podcast. Only after 6 whole years. It's been a very, very cool chat.
Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to do it again?
Sure.
Yeah, so she'll be back. Let us know if you want her to be back, but also let us know what you want us to talk about as a couple.
Yeah.
Let us know what you want to hear. Let us know what you liked about this and what you didn't, because again, we can, that from that growth side of things, we can then grow from it. But yes, please do let us know what you'd like us to talk about, because we are, as you can tell, pretty open books. Extremely open books, and so willing to talk really about anything or dig deep into stuff. So yeah, till next time, thanks for listening. Make sure you share this out, make sure you like it and subscribe it, just so it gets out to other people. Again, it's all about helping those other people, and the sharing is, you know, share it with one person that resonated during this conversation with you. If they popped into your head, I know it's like over 2 hours now, but if it popped into your head, or even multiple people did, share it with them and just be like, hey, I thought about you while I was watching this or listening to this. That's all you have to do. And I guarantee that they will thank you for it. Till next time, my motto is always train hard, test easy. That's both physically, mentally. And we love you all. Thanks for listening and watching.